What's up, Bigfooters, another outdoorly enthused folks? My name is Brady, and today we'll be reviewing Mysteries Decoded, Bigfoot. Alright, so in this Bigfoot special of the CW show Mysteries Decoded, U.S. Navy veteran turned private investigator Jennifer Marshall and cryptozoologist Andrew Sanford team up to investigate the new Bigfoot evidence that has surfaced in recent years. Now, I had never heard of this Mysteries Decoded show, but this episode in particular has been getting some traction online due to the presence of Todd Standing in this episode. Now, if you've seen my review of Todd Standing's documentary Discovering Bigfoot, you probably know my thoughts on Todd Standing. Honestly, I just don't really pay any attention to what he's doing outside of his TV or documentary appearances. And I don't even watch those specifically because of Todd Standing. I just watch them because they're Bigfoot documentaries. In my opinion, I think Todd Standing is too controversial for his own good anyway. If he's an honest researcher, then good for him. And if he's a hoaxer, then good for him. I just don't really pay any attention to what he's doing. I frankly just don't care what Todd Standing is doing. But if I had to lean one way or the other, I would definitely lean towards Todd being a hoaxer.
That's all I have to say about that.
And spoiler, this episode tends to agree with me. So these two investigators looking into the recent Bigfoot evidence really spend the first half of the episode with Todd Standing out in his research location. And throughout that day, Todd shares his footage. He shows like some tree breaks that he's found in the area, some possible footprints that he's found, you know, the usual stuff, the stuff that you see him showing in like Survivor Man Bigfoot and Discovering Bigfoot. If you've seen those, you know what they're showing. So at the end of the first day, Jennifer goes back into town to set up some interviews, while Andrew stays with Todd and his research partner overnight to see if they can have an encounter. And it is during that investigation that Andrew records something on his thermal camera. And it's a garbage recording. They try to like outline it as if there's a body there, but it's just clearly like a hot bush or a hot tree or something like that. But you know, possible footage means increased ratings. So during that evening, Jennifer sets up an interview with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and then she meets back up with Todd and Andrew the next morning. And they review the footage. They determine that it's inconclusive, but it looks human-shaped. I really didn't think it was human-shaped at all. It's in like this weird, awkward, sideways position. So I would say definitely not a good thermal hit. But to be fair, Andrew also didn't even let anybody know when he recorded it because it didn't look very compelling. And he was correct, because it was not. And to end off their trip with Todd, he shows them some of the bigger or thicker tree breaks that he's seen in the area, and it's still inconclusive. So after parting ways with Todd Standing, Jennifer goes to interview Dr. Jeff Meldrum, while Andrew goes to interview Jason Roberts, a Native American from the Olympic Peninsula of Washington. Now, Dr. Meldrum shares some of the typical evidence in his collection. He shows some of the interesting hair samples. He shows some of the many footprint casts that he has in his collection. And he actually clarifies that he is actually very skeptical about Todd Standing's footage. A lot of people have been giving Meldrum flack for supporting Todd Standing, just because he was in his Discovering Bigfoot documentary. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Todd edited his documentary to make it look more like Dr. Meldrum favored his footage, perhaps more than he did in real life. So in this episode, Dr. Meldrum voiced his skepticism on Todd's footage, specifically the very fake-looking static headshots. And Jason Roberts shares with Andrew some of the audio recordings that have been collected on his reservation. And these recordings depict your typical possible Sasquatch screams. But later on in the episode, they reveal that it's most likely coyote, with some possible yips and barks found throughout the recording. So it's most likely not a Sasquatch recording. Finally, Andrew and Jennifer meet back up to interview a Hollywood costume special effects artist. And while interviewing him, they bring up Todd's footage, specifically his static headshot footage, and this effects artist said that it is definitely a hoax, and a pretty poor one at that. I agree. So poor that he even said that he doesn't even believe them to be like latex prosthetics onto someone's face. This costume effects artist says that they're just masks. This footage here, the creature is holding incredibly still. The mouth isn't even moving. It's just all of the features on the face aren't moving whatsoever. It's just standing there completely still, just like a mask would do. If you were wearing prosthetics, you would at least be able to see some movement in the face. But this thing is just holding completely still. He also brings up how this footage is way too clear to be from a distance. From the framing and the quality of the footage, Todd was definitely right there, right next to the creature. This was not a zoomed in shot. And it's not an 8-foot creature. It also has very human-like proportions. The nose to the top of the lip length is much shorter than would be expected. There's just a lot of flaws. And this footage, which is like the Muppet head footage, this costume effects artist doesn't even think it's a mask. He thinks it's just a dummy head that's just sitting there. There is no movement. It doesn't even have any eyelids. Incredibly bad footage, I think. So I definitely agree with this costume artist. And some of you are definitely going to disagree with me on that. I know Todd Standing has accumulated quite the following over the years. But yeah, I definitely agree with this episode that his footage is not legit. And in the end, they admit that none of this evidence is conclusive at all, and that only a body will prove the existence of Sasquatch. Overall, a pretty solid episode. It's not really retreading the same ground that you see on all of the other documentaries out there. It retreads some of the same Todd Standing stuff that you've seen in Survivor Man, Bigfoot, but for the most part, it's not a retread of what we've seen before. And it's not a night vision walk in the woods. So I would definitely recommend checking out this episode on the CW Seed app. That's how I watched it. That's how you can watch it for free, although there are ads. But yeah, if you have a chance, I would recommend checking it out. It was pretty decent as far as Bigfoot shows go. I guess the CW finally made something decent. But really, with that said, I think that's gonna about wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching. Keep squatching.